Hi, welcome to Just Common Sense. My name's Brian Harrison. So, guys, as we've heard today, we got tragic news out there that happened in Texas. There was a shooting that happened in Texas at an elementary school, of all things. So, Jerry's on the line tonight. We're going to talk about all this tonight. This is going to be a pretty serious one tonight. So, Jerry, what's your thoughts here? And then I'll go into what I'm thinking, too.
Well, the very first thing that I will bring up is that actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And for the last few years, maybe even decades, the left has pushed to defund the police. For the last few years, they have pushed to have police officers taken out of schools. They have, pushed to have law enforcement minimalized and marginalized. But then they're the first ones to jump up and scream when a tragedy like this happens. And, these tragedies are completely preventable.
Right.
And it's like, but actions have consequences.
They do.
And, to the left, I just say, hey, you know what? Be careful what you ask for. You might just get it.
Yeah. The problem is we did hear Joe Biden speak tonight, and he's going after guns. That's all he keeps talking about. And he keeps talking about guns, guns, guns. Guys, it's not the guns. It really isn't. The guns aren't the ones doing it. We need to go after things such as, when we're looking at it, it's not even the background checks as much as just finding out what happens to these kids. I mean, they're going through a lot of mental problems out there right now with this. I mean, you're seeing it all over the schools. You're hearing about it. We're talking about, it starts with many things. It starts with this whole woken thing they keep talking about when it comes to transgender, when it comes to all this. It's a variety of things. Guys, when I went to school, and Jerry and many of us went to school in the past, we didn't deal with this stuff. We didn't deal with this stuff at all. And first thing we're going to hear in the next few days is we're going to hear many things. We're going to hear it's Trump's fault. We're going to hear it's racist. We're going to hear it's, many, many other things. It's going to be the Republicans' fault. I
haven't even heard rumors on who the shooter is. Have you heard who the shooter is?
I heard very little. Somebody who's 18 years old, and he got shot by the Border Patrol, of all things.
Well, I heard he's dead, but
and it's a sad thing. But still,
I had the TV on in the background,
and
I kind of heard something that he was in a gunfight with Border Patrol and some other agency, and I couldn't tell if they said that was going on and that he went into the school to get away from it, or if the school was his target.
Well, that I don't know. That's the first I've heard of that, so I'm not going to verify that unless you actually.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but of course, our president is going to go on TV without the facts and run his mouth like any irresponsible knucklehead would do.
Yeah,
and he's going to go out there and run his mouth because his agenda is more gun control, even though I've got a video clip of him somewhere on my computer a few years ago saying that we need new gun control laws because we can't afford to enforce the ones we already have. Makes absolutely no sense. If we can't afford to enforce the ones we already have, then how can we afford to put new ones on the books? This guy is an absolute moron.
And I heard Harris talking today too. That was another problem. We heard her, and it was just as bad. So, guys, give me a minute, Jerry. So, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about mental awareness. That's really what's going on here. We're talking about, first of all, parents out there. Not all parents. I will say this. I'm not blaming everything on parents, but parents have a lot to do with this. You have a lot to do when you raise your kids. You got to raise them right. I'm not saying that if you raise them right, that it still could happen, but the chances are slimmer. It gets a little bit better when we look at good parenting out there, when we look at good teachers in schools teaching what kids should learn, not all this other crap that they're trying to push on the radical left. And guys, I don't really want to go on the left or right tonight. I really don't want to, because this was a tragic thing. Everybody needs to pull together on this and say, hey, we need to fix the problem. It's not guns. I've already heard about them saying, okay, we need to put more police in schools. Well, again, Jerry and I were talking about just before the show, and Jerry had a great idea too about more security guards, teachers perhaps having guns concealed and carry, or at least have them in the classroom in case something like this happens.
Or allowed to.
Yeah, being allowed to. That's correct.
They don't have to be told you have to carry, but be given the option.
Right, and I think these are all great ideas. You're going to have some teachers out there go, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to touch a gun," and that's their choice. I get it. But when stuff like this, but when stuff like this happens, this is a real problem. It's a tragedy. And when I was a kid, I never saw stuff like this. It's only gotten worse through the years. And parents, I mean, we got to talk about this. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can tell you what, I was raised by a great father, a great mother, and I look at this and I look what's going on out there, and I'm telling you, a lot of this is parenting. Talk to your kids. Keep them away from some of these kids out there that aren't so good. Or I want to bring up another example. Get them with kids, too, that are good, because I know several people in my past that I've spoken with. I'll use an example on one. Give me a minute here, Jerry. There was one guy I used to be friends with. And look, I went over to his house one morning. It was about 11:30 in the morning. And I am sitting here talking with him, and I'm saying, well, what's going on and everything else? He goes, shh, quiet down. My son is asleep. Okay, his son's 14 years old, and your son's asleep. What was he doing? Oh, he was playing video games till 3 in the morning with his friends. Okay, that's a little odd. My parents would never have let me do that. The other side of that is, I said, okay, does he get out with his friends and play baseball or anything? No, all his friends are online. He doesn't have any friends outside the house. That's a problem, guys. That's a big problem. What's your thoughts, Jerry?
Well, that was actually a direction that I figured our conversation was going to go at some point.
Absolutely.
Video games.
Yes. And that's just a part of it.
Okay. You have these video games where these kids are able to go out there and be active shooters, not necessarily in a school, but you know what? I'm sure that game's out there somewhere too. But you know what I mean? But you look at some of these games like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, and these people are running around in realistic city settings, and doing violent crimes. And it's like, and then like you said, they sit up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Playing these games over and over and over again. So what's happening is they're desensitizing.
Absolutely.
They're also losing any kind of respect for authority, because in these games, they're always able to kill the store manager or the bus driver, or attack a police officer or something like that. And it's like so they're not afraid of authority figures.
Right.
And they're desensitized, because they've been playing these shooter games. I mean, I watched that GoPro video of the guy that did the shooting in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it looked like a video game. And it's like, and I don't think that was by accident. So I think that what we've done in our society is, we have allowed, the subjects to be available to people that are under a certain age. Like, I mean, hey, you want to go watch a weird movie and you're over 18, some sort of, movie where people are killing each other, and knock yourself out. I mean, I remember it was kind of disgusting. I didn't like it. I don't even think I finished the movie, but there was a movie back during the renting movies days back in the 80s.
Right.
It was called The Faces of Death. And
I remember that. I saw a part of it. I was like, that was sick.
Yeah, and it was sick, and it was like, and me and my friends, most of us didn't watch it. There was a couple guys that watched it all the way through, but
I did.
There were people actually dying in this movie, and it was actually more of a documentary. And but the problem is, nowadays that would be considered tame. And back then it was banned in certain areas and everything like that. I'm not a big fan of the censorship and banning, but I have no problem with putting
there are limits to some things. Yeah, there are limits to some things. I have
and these video games. Some of them have no reason to exist.
Well,
in reality,
I'm gonna, and after I talk about this, I think you'll agree with me on this. I do have a point where certain things should be banned. I mean, we talk about it. We've talked about it many times on the show before about all these shows out there. Like you got YouTube, you've got all Facebook shows that you've got all these violent things going on out there. They won't cut that. They're not going to ban that. They're not going to ban that at all. Jerry, where did you actually see this YouTube video of the Buffalo shooting? Where was it?
You know what? A friend of mine sent me a link to, and he's actually from Puerto Rico,
right?
And he sent me a link from a Spanish language news site. I don't think it was from a U.S. news site,
right?
And but he got it through a Spanish language thing. But I mean, I got to tell you, it was disturbing because it was just like a video game,
right?
And you know, now I watched the first maybe 30 seconds of it, and then I turned it off. I just didn't want to see anymore.
No, of course not. Any sane person would not want to see that.
Yeah, and it's like, and you know, I mean, and at first, my first inclination was to contact him and say, "Dude, what are you thinking sending that to me?" But then I realized that we do need to see some of these things, not necessarily sit down and watch it ad nauseum, but we need to see some of that because we need to understand what's out there and what's happening.
Right.
And
the adults need to see this. The adults need to understand this is going on out there, and their children are seeing this. Jerry, give me a minute.
Just like a video game.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing we've got to look at out here, guys, is I've said this before. You know, you talk about these social media sites out there. You know how many parents are actually letting their kids get on these social media sites, and they don't even know what they're looking at. They don't. And they don't know even who they're talking to. I mean, we've seen already how many predators are going after children. That's one thing. Parents aren't reviewing what their children are watching. Now, they need to do this. I'm going to say it. As as your younger child, until you get to be an adult, you've got to be monitored. Until you're out of the house, living on your own, or at least you're an adult and you're capable of handling things. That may be a whole different thing. But these parents are taking their children and saying, "Oh, they're like a friend to me." You know what? Parent, be an adult. Take care of this.
I'm going to throw something else.
Go ahead. You're a parent, Jerry. You know.
With the schools.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and I've got 2 points to make here.
Sure.
With the schools, okay, one of the reasons that schools are attacked in these kinds of attacks so often.
Sure.
It's not just because the shooters are students.
Right.
It's because these schools are what are referred to in tactical verbiage as soft targets. Okay.
Right.
They don't have a defense. And like you said, we can't fill the school with cops, and that's not where a school needs to be. A school doesn't need to be filled with cops, but they're soft targets. And somebody knows that when they go into a school, the chances of engaging somebody that has a firearm that could stop them are very, very slim.
Right.
And that's why I said earlier that, if teachers were allowed to carry concealed, many of these school shootings would not happen, because if somebody knows they walk in there that, say 3 out of every 5 teachers is carrying, or 2 out of every 5 teachers is carrying, and that as soon as they pull a gun out, there's a chance they're going to catch one in the head.
Right.
They're probably not going to go there.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that you never hear of one of these public shootings happening at a police station?
Yeah. Do you know what?
In a gun store, in a sporting goods store, because those are not soft targets. Now, the second point I want to make is after the school shooting in Florida a few years ago.
Yeah.
I was online with a friend of mine and his daughter, and, they lived in Florida at the time. And, his daughter was flipping out about the school shooting in Florida, even though she wasn't at that school, but even so, that's pretty close to home.
Yeah.
And so she was talking about how, we need to make the schools into these fortresses and everything like that. And I said, you are crazy. She was talking about like windowless schools and things like that. And I said, let me just go ahead and tell you why I think that's a bad idea.
Right.
If we turn a school into a fortress, first off, it takes away any of the social capabilities of, the school itself. But here's the other thing. Once a bad guy is inside, the good guys can't get in to stop him. If you turn the school into a fortress, once somebody does figure out a way to get in, and bad people will always figure out a way to get in.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, so once they do figure out a way, then there's no way to get in. She was talking about like, once school starts have, almost like vault-like doors on the school where nobody can get in, and no windows and no this and that. And it's like,
it's not the way to live.
Now, if you turn this place into a fortress, now the good guys can't get in to stop the bad guy, but also the victims and potential victims can't get out.
Right.
So the fact that, with these public shooters, and yes, it was a school today. Okay. But it's not always a school, but you know what they always are? They're always soft targets.
Exactly.
At disco in Florida, it's like, that's a soft target.
Sure.
The churches, although some churches now are changing. And I know that, one of the churches that I've gone to here in the Raleigh area, actually has a group of people that are concealed carry holders.
Right.
They are going through special training, and they have an identifying piece of clothing that they wear that's not obvious, so that other people that are in that team can recognize them.
Okay.
If a shooting were to happen.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my friends because he's on one of these teams, and he said, yeah, he says, so be very careful. And he gave me the identifying characteristic. And he said, because if you were there and there was a shooting, he says, I know you carry. He says that you were trying to help out, because if you don't have that identifying clothing on, he says you could be mistaken for, one of the bad guys.
Good point.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
That's a good point.
So now churches are starting to harden themselves, not all of them, but some.
Right.
And I think that's a good idea. And like I said, I don't think that teachers should be walking around open carry.
No.
And everything like that. But you know what? If you've got teachers doing concealed carry, and all the students need to know, they don't need to know which teachers are carrying. They just need to know that some are.
And you know what? Some of these kids, with what's going on right now, are going to feel much more safer being in those classes, realizing now that they have an adult protecting them.
Well, and you look in an area like Texas, and again, I don't know the demographics of this area where this happened.
Yeah.
But in a lot of schools in Texas, if something happened and the teacher did get shot trying to defend the kids, half of those kids probably know how to pick up the gun and take care of business.
Yeah, really.
And it's like, but I know, and I don't want to throw one thing out. I don't want to belabor the point, but I know you don't want to make this a political thing, but Brian, let's not kid ourselves. The Democrats are the ones that have, wanted the defunding. They're the ones that have wanted the cops out of schools, and they're the ones that have restricted school boards from allowing teachers to carry. And it's just, one thing after the other. So for them to come out now and start screaming that, oh gosh, guns did this and guns did that. No,
guns didn't.
Brian, I own a number of guns, as you know, and not one of my guns has ever shot anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And not one of my guns has ever gone off while it was just sitting there by itself.
Nope, not at all. And it is a political talk show, and we are getting a little political, and I don't have a problem with that. My problem is I just, I want to keep this to say, okay, we understand that both parties need to get together on this and not go after guns. But again, with Biden speaking tonight, he already got political.
Oh, absolutely.
There's your problem right there. Tomorrow they're going to blame it on the Republicans. They're going to blame it on Trump. They're going to blame it on whatever else they can. Let me tell you something. It is the radical left's fault this is going on. And it truly
is. They blamed it on the right in Buffalo because the guy was a white supremacist,
and he wasn't.
That he's a far left. Well, he is. I don't think he's a white supremacist, but he is anti-immigrant or anti-black or something like that. He was going off this philosophy from some book he read that was written about 85 or 90 years ago about how if we allow minorities to continue propagating at the numbers they are, that white people will cease to be in power. And so that was part of his manifesto, was
which he's mentally sick.
Right. But he's also a far leftist.
Yeah. Also, hold on, Jerry. Also, did you realize that he was actually, I think it was 30 days before that, he was threatening to kill a bunch of people, and they had him in custody for something. He was threatening this, and they let him go. Did you know that?
Because the rules have changed, and
exactly,
you can't hold people, and
Exactly. And this goes to the left. It goes to Joe Biden. It goes to Harris. It goes to Nancy Pelosi. It goes to, many of them up there. Maxine Waters. It goes to all of them up there on the radical left. And I'm getting a little angry about this tonight, and I am. I'm trying to keep cool, but I blame a lot of this on them. I blame it on them getting out there.
Else too. Okay. Yeah. Again, 8. Well, it's up to 18 kids and 3 adults now. So that's 21 people
and that's
dead.
Sick.
And that's terrible.
Terrible.
And there's obviously more in the hospital that are injured.
Yeah.
Obviously this is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But let's look at something else. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what the leading, now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right off.
No, go ahead.
The answer is not COVID.
Right.
Okay. I'll tell you that up front.
Sure.
What is the leading cause of death in the United States in U.S. citizens, not just males, but U.S. citizens, ages 18 to 45?
Yeah.
You know what it is?
I would say domestic violence is a big chunk of that. Am I right?
Not even close.
There you go, guys. Jerry got me on that one.
Fentanyl.
Oh, fentanyl. Well, yeah.
Fentanyl is the leading.
I thought we were going somewhere with guns on this. Oh, yeah.
I am going somewhere with guns on this.
Okay.
Where does fentanyl come from? It comes across our southern border. What else is coming across our southern border? Criminals.
That's correct.
And it's like, so, I mean, the thing is, when we keep seeing a lot of this, gun crime.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of it is happening just from us. I mean, okay, yeah, so this was a school shooting.
Yeah.
So this is going to be high profile.
Sure.
But what about all these illegal alien gang members? Okay.
Right.
And it's like, that are coming across our border. So we keep hearing, oh, gun violence, gun violence, gun violence. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're letting them in. I mean, criminals are pouring across our border right now.
Yeah.
And, when the leading cause of death is an illegal drug that's coming across our southern border.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it just blows my mind that people are sitting here they take a small thing. This is like, when you look at it, this is like the old axiom of, taking a bucket of water out of the shallow end of the pool and pouring it into the deep end of the pool to try and fill the pool up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, so what they're doing is, oh yeah, we've got a couple of deaths here and there from gun violence. So, we want to make guns illegal. Okay. And it's like, but we've got tens of thousands of people dying every few months from fentanyl. And we know where fentanyl's coming from. It's coming across our border. Okay. And it's like, so, it just blows my mind. And here's the other thing. The left is blaming the right on everything. And I know that's what you just said.
I did.
And they're getting ready to.
Of course they are.
It's like,
they already have.
Brian, over the last 10, 15 years,
yes,
the vast majority of public shooters have been liberals.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like,
true.
So, so your own people are the shooters, not white supremacists, not, Trump supporters or, anything.
Yeah.
That's why, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago when they had that one Trump supporter that was, sending stuff in the mail or through FedEx or whatever. That's why it hit the news so big, because they finally found one. Yeah. They finally found somebody on the right that was doing it, and it's like, but, but we keep hearing, guns.
Right.
Top 10 causes of death in the U.S. Okay. Heart disease, cancer, accidents and unintentional injuries, lung disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, flu and pneumonia, kidney disease, suicide, and intentional self-harm.
Yeah.
So nowhere in there in the top 10 causes of death in the United States is firearms. Now, heart disease is number one. I haven't seen us outlawing fast food and McDonald's, and, I haven't seen us outlawing fat people that don't exercise. It's like, but, and that's the number one cause of death, heart disease. It's like, but we get something that's not even in the top 10, but it's a good political topic. So we're going to go after guns.
Right. So anyway, apparently you could tell Jerry's heated because he's talking a lot tonight on the show.
Big topic.
We're gonna call it Jerry's show tonight. But
actions have consequences.
Jerry, you got a lot of good viewpoints there. Absolutely. And you know what? We talked about this before. Fentanyl is coming across the border. That's only one part of it. You know how many how many people out there are probably high when they do this stuff too? On drugs. Look, I don't even know what happened today. Look, where was this guy in Texas? Do we know if he's an illegal? I know nothing about the guy. I know nothing about him yet. We'll find out more.
I've got the TV on in the background. I just threw a picture of him up.
What's your thought?
And he does look Hispanic, but I didn't see a name. I didn't see anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, so I can't really go there,
we can't go there, Jerry, because there's a lot of good Hispanic people out there, and they're going to start blaming it, saying you said that, but no, there are a lot of Hispanic people in Texas anyway, obvious reasons.
Well, the reason I bring that up is it could be somebody that came across the border illegally,
and it could be, and let's find out.
I'm not saying that Hispanic people are bad,
of course not.
I know Trump got maligned for that a few years ago.
I know he didn't even mean
bad people coming across it. Oh, Trump says Mexicans are bad people. No,
he did not. He said the same thing we said on the show. Bad people are coming across with people that are trying to get across the border. You and I have talked about it. There are good people trying to get across the border, but when they get across the border, guess what? Then they become illegal. Do it legally. We've talked about. But anyway, this show's not all about this tonight. It's about, obviously, fentanyl. We talked about, guess what? Rocky Mountain, where am I? Tennessee? Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, right here. My understanding is heroin is very big going through there because it's the I-95 corridor that goes from Florida to New York and all that. And I hear heroin's one of the biggest things in that area.
I was actually getting ready to bring up heroin in a few minutes, too, because even though I brought up fentanyl, fentanyl may be the number one cause of death right now.
Yeah.
But heroin is still a terrible thing. And
absolutely,
heroin is back on the rise again because with some of the other drugs out there now, heroin's inexpensive again.
Yep. Do you know? Yep. I want to say something. Do you know why one part of these drugs, why they're getting so popular, especially with kids and young people? What's your thought? I mean, I'll tell you. I'm just going to go out and say it. Because these young adults, children, were locked in for so long with COVID that they are so depressed because of what happened. Now they're having to vent other ways by taking these drugs instead of getting therapy, instead of their parents talking with them. I'm going back into the parent. I think the parents have a big role in a lot of this right now. And I'm going to stick by my guns on this. No pun inspected. After I just said that, no, not that. But I'm going to stick by this. I almost said it
a few minutes ago. I'm glad
I know. I said it, guys. There you go.
Well, that's like I always, I'll get in conversations like this.
And, my gosh.
I'll start talking about what triggers people, and they'll look at me kind of fun.
Got to be politically correct, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Get over it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the heroin thing right about the time you brought it up, but the fentanyl deaths.
Yes.
And you brought up a great point that some of these people are probably high when they do this stuff.
Yes.
And then on top of that, some of these people are, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and state the obvious first.
Yeah.
Anybody who does a crime like this has mental issues.
Absolutely.
Okay? And it's like, but the thing is, some of them are literally clinically diagnosed and on medication.
Right.
And, and so, when this kind of thing happens, these people have no business having a firearm. And like, I remember people making a big deal about the guy in Charleston, South Carolina, a couple of years ago that went into the church and killed a bunch of black people in a church, and he was white. And that was one of his, I want to say that was one of his goals, was because they were black, but
and it's sad.
I think it was also because they were Christian. But but the thing is, he was literally on medication that he should have never been allowed to purchase a firearm. But what happens is, the left makes all these rules and says, oh, well, if he's being treated mentally, that's a private medical record. That's between him and his doctor. And now, I disagree. I'm sorry. If you're on some sort of, treatment because you're unstable, or if you're on a medication because you're unstable, that should be in a database of,
that's correct.
Just information that's allowed to be used to consider whether you should be allowed to own a firearm. It shouldn't be necessarily an immediate disqualifier if somebody has been in treatment in the past or, something like that. It also depends on what they're being treated for. But if somebody's clinically, being treated clinically for something that would cause himself to be a danger to himself or others, no, that guy shouldn't own a gun. And it's like, but because we've got all these, medical privacy laws, and I believe in medical privacy laws. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't need people calling my house at all times of the day and night, offering me, oh, we got this new medication because we found out that you've got this medical problem.
Right.
No, but when it comes to something like purchasing a firearm,
yes,
I have no problem with that information being part of the equation.
I agree with you 100% on that. 100%. And you and I have talked about this too. Just to own a firearm, I think that you need to go to safety classes and everything else. We've talked about this before, obviously, and the instructor can sit there. The person who instructs these people could sit there and say, well, wait a minute, I'm seeing something weird about this guy or lady or whatever the case may be.
Well, and the other thing is, too,
they can identify.
On the federal firearm background sheet, on the sheet that you have to fill out.
Absolutely.
Some of the questions on there, they ask you questions, about, are you under psychiatric care? Or, I can't remember the exact questions, and which is funny because I filled out so many of those things.
Right.
But, they ask you questions like, do you use illegal drugs or, whatever. It's like, so they ask the questions. So if you answer no, then that should be the first crime you're prosecuted for if you do a gun crime.
Right.
And when I say a gun crime, I'm talking like if you just rob a store, even if you don't pull the trigger.
Sure.
If you rob a store with a gun and then they find out that, you lied on your background check and shouldn't even have a gun.
Absolutely.
That should be the first charge. You lied on a federal form.
Yeah.
Like Hunter Biden did.
All right.
Anyway, when he bought his firearm, he lied on the background check.
Right.
And because he was, if you remember, he was kicked out of the Navy Reserve for using cocaine.
I understand. I know.
And so, so the thing is, so he lied on his background check. Then he was found to have a firearm, which he not only was not supposed to have, but then he just threw it in a dumpster to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I forget how it got found, but did so many things wrong. And my dad's the vice president. So,
right.
I'm not going to be investigated or prosecuted or anything like that. It's like,
right.
So, and see, that's another problem too. You get people out there that look at celebrities, and not just him, but other celebrities that do stupid stuff. What's happened to Alec Baldwin? Nothing
at all.
And it's like, and then we lionize and, deify some of these people that do things. I remember a few years ago, I went to work and there was a couple of people and they were all upset. And I was like, oh, what's wrong? And they're like, and it was an actor. His name's Philip Seymour Hoffman. They're like, Philip Seymour Hoffman died. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's too bad. What happened? They're like, he overdosed.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I said, then I don't feel as bad as I did. I'm sorry he's gone.
Yeah.
And I used my favorite phrase that I used earlier tonight. Actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And, so the thing is, but what happens is this guy goes out. Well, we spent the next 2 weeks hearing about what a great actor he was and what great films he was in and what awards he won and everything like that.
Sure.
We didn't hear the fact that, he's a criminal.
Yeah.
What do you mean he's a criminal? He's doing illegal drugs.
Yeah.
He didn't overdose on Pepsi or Sprite or Mountain Dew.
Right.
Okay. He overdosed on illegal drugs. And it's like, so our kids think, it's okay.
Yeah. I want to bring up something. Give me a minute, Jerry. I know you're taking over the show a little bit tonight. He's all emotional and, in a good way. No, he's got a lot of valid points, but the other thing is they're trying to pass marijuana here in North Carolina and across the country. We're seeing it. My opinion on that is no. I know they use it for medical purposes, perhaps on that, but as far as recreational, I am not for it. And the reason why I'm not for it is because, first of all, you're going to get we'll say it this way, you're just going to get kids. You're going to get kids that get it. They get it now, but at least it's illegal. It's harder to get. But if it's legal, you're going to have people out there smoking marijuana, drinking and driving. And now, not just only drinking and driving, they're smoking pot and drinking and driving. Guess what that's going to do? That's going to be more intense when they're out there getting into accidents, things like that. And you know what? Who's pitching this? The left. The left is pitching this more than the right. The right's, some of the right's for it. I've got certain people I know out there that are actually for that are... they're not conservatives. I'm trying to remember. They're
libertarian.
Libertarian. Thank you, Jerry. I was trying to remember it. But libertarians, and I think libertarians, they have some great views. But again, I may have a difference in opinion when it comes to this, when it comes to drugs. I know one libertarian who wanted everything legal. And I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. But what's your thought on this, Jerry?
You got to remember that. Yeah, and I was just watching a news interview last night, and they were talking about marijuana and things like that. And one of the guys on the show was a research scientist.
Yeah,
and he said that the marijuana of today is now. I had always heard like 200 or 250 times stronger than what it was when we were younger.
Yeah,
but this guy was saying 2,000 times stronger. Yeah. So if you've got something that's 20, could you imagine if the amount of alcohol in a can of beer had gone up by 200 or 2,000%?
That's crazy.
In the last 30 years.
That's absolutely crazy.
It's like they wouldn't allow it. And it's like, so the thing is, so now we've got marijuana that's far stronger than, any marijuana when we were younger. And in addition to that, now you've got these illegal cartels that are lacing it with, things like fentanyl and other drugs where they put it into the marijuana. And so some poor kid buys pot off the street thinking, hey, I'm just going to go smoke a joint and get high. And next thing you know, they're in the morgue. And it's like, and they don't even understand why. And what it was is because, I mean, you bought drugs from somebody you don't know, dude.
Or they're laced in many things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so these people, the reason they're putting it in there is they're like, well, I want people to get really high on my stuff so that they'll be impressed with it. And they'll come back and buy from me next time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but, since you don't know, the tolerances of the people that you're selling to,
right,
it's dangerous.
Very much so.
And so like what you're talking about, making marijuana legal, I have a feeling because, that's going to be the next step. You've always talked about, conditioning.
Step. Yep.
Yeah. And so, they start making a little stronger, and pretty soon it'll be, it'll be way over the top.
Yeah. I mean, the world's getting crazy. I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't get access to half of this stuff. I mean, when we talk about what's going on, we talked about, obviously we talked about all these things you could see on the computer. These kids can pull up things on the computer that are like, I mean, you see animals, you see, obviously, I'm going to bring up porn. You see that out there. You see all kinds of stuff. Why is this happening? Why? They're radical about shutting people down about freedom of speech that aren't causing problems just because we have a different opinion. That's fine. But when you're letting your children have access to this stuff, that's a major problem. I mean, obviously there's parental controls on computers, on games, a variety of things. Use them.
Yeah, parental controls work for the little kids. By the time the kid gets to middle school, they already know how to get around that stuff.
I know. It's an example of one step. Yep. There's many steps to go here. And there really is.
And I agree with that.
Right. It's just one step out of many.
Yep.
And parents need to be involved. They need to be involved with their kids. You're not just a friend. You are a parent. And I've said this. Look, my father, and I'll say it. I'm going to say it right now. My father, he was great. He is great. Even though he's up in heaven right now, he is great. And as a child, I did some things wrong. Guess what? He straightened me out like that. My mom too, but my dad more so because my dad was a police officer and a Marine. So, I had to deal with that. And, he did some things. I could go into many, many stories. Obviously, I got with the wrong crowd when I was probably about 13, I think 14, something in that area, only for a brief period. But I tell you what, he got me straight real quick. And I never really got into drugs. I never got into alcohol. Yes, I drank a little bit when I was younger. I don't drink at all, not at all. And Jerry can testify this. He knows I don't drink at all. And there's a couple reasons. Obviously, I never really got into it too much. I got drunk twice in my life. I was sick, and that was enough for me. But the other thing is that I've seen people die from it, and I've seen issues with this stuff. And I don't have a problem if somebody goes out and has a drink and they're not, pushing it out there, because a lot of people turn into alcoholics from this. I've seen this. One of my own family members, not too close, one of my cousins, actually dealt with this, and it was sad. And I'm telling you, he's no longer here, and he was young when he died. And seeing things like this, you learn not to get involved with all that. Now, and if you do it the right way. Just don't get out there and drink until you're drunk and all that and drive. We've seen it where people are hurting other people out there. How many times are we driving down the road and we see crosses everywhere? A lot.
Oh, yeah.
How many times are police officers put in danger because of this when they get out of a car to handle a drunk driver who may have a gun on them? It's illegal. Oh, because that drunk driver, how'd he get that gun? Again, he got it. Shouldn't have had it, perhaps. Or maybe he just, he didn't go right through the right background check when it came down to his mental capacity. Like you just said a little while ago, this should be something that should be shown if they are under any type of therapy that's handling things like schizophrenia and drugs and a variety of things. I mean, is that what you're going with this, Jerry? Is that what you were talking about tonight?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know,
I just
guys.
looked it up while we were talking. Yeah. Okay, the shooter is a guy named Salvador Ramos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's 18.
Okay.
It says he is a resident of Uvalde, Texas. Doesn't say citizen, but
okay.
If he bought his guns legally, then he's got to be a citizen, I would imagine.
Right.
Or at least here legally.
Okay.
Sure. Said he abandoned his car and entered the school.
Okay.
And so the thing is, it was an elementary school, so obviously he had no business being there, but he probably just knew it was an easy target. Mm-hmm. Said he recently posted images of 2 rifles in his most recent post on Instagram before the social media platform deleted the account. So the Instagram didn't contact the police and say, hey, you know what, this guy's like showing rifles off, on Instagram.
Yeah.
They just deleted his account. And it's like, so I mean, it just blows my mind when I hear stuff like that, because, you've got, a guy like this, and it's like, well, if you think he's dangerous enough where you have to get rid of his Instagram account, why didn't you report that to police?
Right. And that could be it's a major problem. These are warning signs out there, guys. And then we got to figure out who the parents were. I mean, I have no idea the family background. I have no idea if this guy's been in prison before, if he's had issues. We'll find out. I'm hoping, as we see, as always, we always find out there's something in the background. Look at the one in Buffalo.
Well, this guy shot California. His grandmother earlier in the day before the school shooting. So probably knew he was in deep trouble and just figured he's going to go out in a blaze of glory.
Absolutely. Sad and sick at the same time. It really is. It's sad. And, my heart goes out to the family members who have lost their children today, and the adults as well. I think there were 2 teachers, or 3, you said?
Well, it said 3 adults. I think the third one may be the shooter himself.
Okay, all right.
It keeps running across the bottom of the TV screen. It keeps bouncing back and forth. Also, like 18 students and 2 teachers.
Yeah.
And then another one will come across and say 18 children and 3 adults. So I think the third adult was the shooter.
And usually I have my TV on in my studio catching that. I ran home from the office, jumped into my studio real quick just to start this up. Didn't even read anything. I was just catching bits and pieces. So Jerry and I are jumping into this. I heard Biden speak on the way home. I was in my car listening to everything, trying to catch up on this. So we're going to get more facts as this goes through, everybody out there. Again, I am getting ready to go ahead and end this podcast right now. If anybody wants to join in a little bit, they can join me on, I'm either going to go to TikTok or I'm going to go to Twitter, and I'm going to go live out there in just a little bit and start speaking with people. Guys, as always, go to my website. That's where you're going to find me. If you go down to the bottom, just the -markcommonsense.com. Again, just the -markcommonsense.com. And it's, it's a very sad day, but we're going to see many more of these. We're going to see this happening until it gets straight. Guys, I'm going to say it this way. As always, we all, and I mean all of us, parents, children, everybody, we all need to come together and we need to talk about this and not go after guns. Go after the real source of the problem here. And the real source is, part of it is what Jerry's talking about as far as drugs, fentanyl down at the border, what's coming in at the border. We also need to talk about what's going on with all these children out there, what they need. They need to be evaluated. If there's problems there, they need to go see a therapist. They need to go through all this. It's just, that's the real cause of this right now, is when you look at that. It's not the guns. It's evaluating everybody that's trying to get guns and evaluating these kids that are doing drugs, or these adults that are doing drugs and things, and who are under a therapist getting help right now. And this stuff happens. This stuff happens a lot, unfortunately. We're seeing more and more of it, and we're seeing a lot more people with mental problems in this country. So it's sad to say. And I think the lockdowns did not help. They really did not help. Jerry, anything else before we end this?
No, that's about it.
All right, guys. As always, I want to thank our police officers for everything you do. I want to thank our border agents that got involved in this down in Texas tonight. Guys, my heart is out to you guys. Same with the family members that lost children tonight. My understanding, too, is not every child has been found yet. Not saying that they're dead. I heard when I was driving home that a few of the children, the parents couldn't find their children. So who knows what's going on. Maybe they're just hiding and scared. And very, very understandable. Very sad to see this. And the 2 adults that got killed there, or even 3. And even the shooter, I wish this shooter didn't go through this. I wish he was, a normal person, didn't have any mental issues here. But again, somebody that's like that is definitely mental, and it's a sad thing to see. We got to get this straight, guys. But again, going after the guns is not the issue, because guns aren't going away. You can't take guns away. You try to take guns away, people know how to make guns out there, and the criminals are the ones that are going to have them. It's the legal gun owners, such as ourselves, that actually are out there. Something happens, God knows we never want to see it. We never want to hear anything about this or be part of this, but at least maybe we have the option to protect ourselves and protect others if somebody comes right at us. There's all kinds of rules to that, and protect our family. As always, thanks for our law enforcement. Thanks for our first responders. Thanks for our military out there. That's another subject we're going to be talking about tomorrow night or the next night. I want to talk about what's going on with Russia, China, and what Biden said yesterday about Taiwan. We'll talk about that as well. And I know Jerry's got a lot to say on that one, right, Jerry?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll be dealing with that. Guys, keep in mind gas prices are going up like crazy. We'll be talking about that as well. And what's going on up there, what's not going, a lack of what's not going on up there. And then again, thanks for I think I may have said this, our farmers, our people are out there actually collecting a paycheck. Guys, and our truck drivers. Guys, God bless you. Have a great night. Thanks for listening, and take care, and go check out the website. Thanks.